G'day guys, and welcome to our third lesson for our outdoor education unit. Today we're going to be looking at maps and grid references, sort of what sort of things are on a map, how we can use them, and then looking at grid references, what they mean, and how we can find our grid references for certain locations. So looking forward to today's lesson. Should be a good one. There's plenty of online interactivity for this one, so making sure that you can copy and paste the links that are on these slides or scanning our QR codes to go to the links that we need as well. So looking forward to the lesson. First of all, I just want to look at the importance of maps. So first and foremost, maps are used as a navigation and a safety tool. I've got core navigation tool here. So a lot of the time you're out in the wild, on a camp, on a hike, on a kayak, whatever you're doing, but it's a core navigation tool that you use to get around, see where you're going, what route you've got for the day, where you're going to, how you're going to get there, the things you can see around you. So maps are super important for our navigation tool, and it is normally the standard one that we use. But it's also a backup technology. Obviously, the world's evolving where technology is being incorporated in most aspects of our life, but a lot of the time when you are out camping, you're on a hike, doing whatever you are, there's not going to be any service. So being able to read a map in the flesh is super important. It's going to be a really important skill that you're going to be able to use throughout your camps. That can end up being life-saving. So getting lost is a really, really scary thing on trips. So making sure you can recognize things around you, how they relate to your map, and then being able to get out of trouble there just shows how much of a safety tool maps are as well. And then also promotes our cognitive and critical thinking skills too. So problem solving, as I said before, figuring out the features of the map, what you can see around you and putting them together, looking at your spatial awareness, recognizing your surroundings and how that incorporates into map reading as well, then critical thinking too. So a lot of other few other skills that come with map reading as well, which are super important and can just be taught and good things to have in general. So, first thing first, we want to look at the key features of a map. Now, on a map, there's got these things that I'm about to talk through, and for one of our activities, we're going to look at identifying what these things are and what they mean on a map as well. So, the first one we've got here is a scale. What a scale does, it's able to determine the distance between the lines, essentially. So, when we're looking at a map, there'll be lots of things going on in there, but the scale helps determine how big that is in comparison to real life. The second one there, we've got legend or a key. Now, these things explain what the different aspects are on a map, whether that be trails, toilet stops, water tanks, roads, things like that, fences, all things that are markings on a map, and then they help you identify them. And then third one there, I've got contour lines. Now, a contour line determines the steepness of a hill, essentially. So the closer the contour lines are together, the steeper the hill that is going to be. The further away, the flatter the ground will be. Fourth one, I've got orientation. So on all maps, it should give you a little orientation to show you which way north is. This helps with compass reading and using a compass as an incorporation with your maps. And then the last one is trails, which is going to be a majority of what you use, unless you're going off-track stuff. But a lot of the time, you're going to be following a trail, and these maps have these features there. So on this slide here, as we can see, those lines there where it says trails, they're pre-established routes. Trails, roads, or paths. Your legend or key will determine which ones these are, depending on colours, thickness, dotted lines you can see like that. Orientation there, it's got a little arrow facing north, suggesting when you're holding your map and you're looking at your map, the top of the map is north. And then down there we've got a scale as well, helps with calculation of distances and timings, figuring out how far you're going to walk over certain periods of time, which is super beneficial there. And we've got our legend or our key. It's up to you which word you use. And it's identifying the different features and different markings on the map. So you can have a look there and see what these different things mean in relation to our map. Amazing. So now knowing all of these things, I want you to pause the video. There's a little link there and it's a little drag and drop of a labeling task. So pause the video, copy the link, and then go and have a crack at that little activity. It should only take you about a minute or so, but it's just a drag and drop so you understand the difference between being able to label what the different features of the map. So I think there's a legend and a key one, there's an orientation one, there's a trail, and a scale as well. So see how you go, and I'm looking forward to seeing your results. It should tell you instantly what you get wrong, what you get right, bit of feedback straight off the bat, and then come back to the lesson. Great work, guys. So love to see that we all are able to understand the different features of a map, and we can label them as well and understand what they do in relation to our map reading. So what we've got next, we're going to start looking at grid references. Now, grid references are a great way to identify where features are on a map, locations, or where you are yourself. There's lots of different things you can do in terms of grid reference, but to start with, we're going to look at 4-point grid references. We're going to look at 4-point grid references and 6-point today. First one's at first, we're going to do 4. It's a simpler version, not so specific. But we'll go on to the next slide here. And in order to take a 4-point grid reference, we're looking at the numbers down the bottom of our screen of our map and then along the side of our map as well. So when we're looking at a grid reference, we're trying to identify a point on the map in which we are, or an object or a place is, so that when I tell you this is my coordinates, then you're able to go find that, and it's a bit of an easier way than trying to describe using other features. But as I was saying before, a 4-point reference isn't as specific as a 6-point reference. It gives a general overview of the area, but it's not going to be able to give you a specific pinpoint to where you are or the location is on the map. When we're looking at a 4-point, it's a whole square, so we can see our grid lines on our map there, and then being able to determine these reference points gives you the area in the whole square as to which you are, as to where you are. In order to take these, you find the number along the bottom first, so we see them in our 20s, and then we're going up along the vertical axis there as well to get our second point of reference. So if we're looking at West Lakes, you're going to see where it is on your map. You're going to find that area. You're going to look down and see which number along the bottom it corresponds with first. So you see it's in the 22 box, which is amazing. So we go 22, and then we're going up the ladder, up our vertical axis there, and finding which box it corresponds with and matches up. So our grid reference there for West Lakes would be 2267. And then when we're looking at Para Hills, you find that on the map. See which box it corresponds with along the bottom there at the start. We see that it lines up with 25, and then we make our way up the vertical axis and see that it matches up with 68. So our 4-point grid reference for that bit would be 2568. Alrighty, so now that we know how to find our 4-point grid references, for the next activity, pause the video, scan the QR code, and I want you to find our 4-point references for these following 4 places. So Blackwood, Grange, Golden Grove, and Largs Bay. Put them on the Padlet there, and then just say, yep, Blackwood is at such and such, and then we can all look at our results at the end. Good work, everybody. So, going through the answers, we can see here, we look along the bottom, we see that Blackwood is in the corresponding to 24. Going up the ladder there, up our vertical axis, and it aligns with the 64. So for Blackwood, it'll be 2464. And then going down Grange, 2266. Golden Grove, 2568. And Largs Bay, 2268. So have a look at how you went with that little quiz there, little activity. Compare the answers, and yeah, just notice where you went wrong or why you went wrong, and then you can adjust that for the next activity. Alrighty, for our next part, we're going to look at 6-point references. Now, the difference between these and our 4 points is these ones are really specific. So as we can see here in this little diagram, initially we were looking at that whole box area, and adding this 6-point reference enables us to pinpoint exactly where we are on the map. So when we're using these 6-point references, we break down our big box that we've identified in our 4-point, and we break it down into all these littler boxes again, and that helps us get that 6-point reference. So the way we do this, you got to imagine each little line there is another 1, and it goes from 1 to 10. So we've got our little box split up. We got our box, and then we split it up into 10 more segments, and then we got to find which one it aligns with along that little bit for our last point. So it's a little bit of a guesstimate when it comes to our map reading, but we go along the bottom again. So as we can see here, our big box would be 3, 2, and then 4, 3. But then we got to see how far along that little red square is in our next point, and it's about a third of the way through. So our next reference point would be 3, and then we go up the ladder again, and we see it's about 2 lines above that. So our grid reference for that would be 323, 432, as we can see here. Now, when we are looking at our Adelaide map again, we're going to be looking at 6-point grid references here. So as we find Aberfoyle Park, we would see that it's in the initial box of 2, 4. And then if we were to divide that box into 10 more slots, it'd be about 3 in from there. So our first axis there is 2, 4, 3. And then we can see that it lines up with our 63 box. And then when you divide that into your 10 little slots, it's about 4 up from there. So for Aberfoyle Park, it'll be 2, 4, 3, 6, 3, 4. Now we're going to do the same again for Woodcroft. We're going to go find which box it aligns with along the bottom there, which is 23. And then it's right on the end. It's not quite on the line of 24. So it'll be 2, 3, 9 when we divide that up. So it's so close to being on the line, but not quite, which means it's our 9. And then we're looking at our vertical axis there, and we're going to see it's in line with 62 and really close to 63. So it'll be 6, 2, 9 as well. So Same activity, but this time we're looking at 6-point grid references. Pause the video, find Semaphore, McGill, Salisbury, and One Tree Hill, and then we'll come back and look at our answers as well. Good work, guys. So we've got the answers here for Semaphore. We've got 223. So as I said before, it corresponds with our 22 along the horizontal axis. It's about a third of the way in. So there we go. We've got our 3. And then we're looking up 67. And then it's about 7 of our 10 up on the vertical axis. So 223, 667. And then McGill, 254, 665. Salisbury, 244, 692. One Tree Hill, 269, 699 right in the top right corner of the map there. Don't be too upset if you've got the last point of your references a little bit off. As I said before, it's a bit of a guesstimate and people will be off slightly, but it just allows you to pinpoint that location with a bit more specific, in a more specific manner. So yeah, that's why we use our 6-point references. It's a really good way to locate specific things on your map rather than a general area, because as we can see by our scale and looking at the map, you can see a couple of different suburbs in one of the squares, whereas now we can really pinpoint where we're trying to get to. For an extension activity, if you wanted to extend yourself and you found this really quite enjoyable and you want to push yourself a bit further, have a go at this extension activity here. It sort of ties in our key features of a map that we looked at earlier, and also looking at some grid references as well. It gives you some questions. It also has the answers on the bottom page if you want to scroll down and have a look. Totally up to you. You can do that at your own pace. But yeah, just an extension activity if you want to push yourself a bit further. But other than that, that wraps up today's lesson. Great work today, guys. Next week, we're going to be looking at sustainability in the outdoors, some strategies we can do to ensure we're being sustainable in the outdoors, and what that actually means. So thanks for joining me again today, and we'll see you next week.